All right. Well, today on the Industrialist, I think maybe we call it the Residentialist.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Little twist.
Yeah, a little twist on it. But I've got the managing partner for the agency here in Frisco, Miss Heather Stevens. What's up?
Thank you for having me. I'm super excited to be here. So.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you reached out to me to see if anyone was selling a house in my neighborhood. And I was like,
that's what you do.
Yeah.
When you've got those specific clients and doing everything on the back end. Real estate's been so weird the past year and a half. So you got to get creative.
Yeah. Well, so that was good because I was like, oh, you know what? I was just like, in my mind, I was like setting up guests. And I've always thought, I was like, I want to interview you too. And then I was like, oh, great. Here we are. Let's do this.
Right.
So,
right. Reminder. So, well, thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Absolutely. Also a Matt Cap investor.
Yeah, that's right.
Probably did our third deal.
Yeah.
Still rolling.
I know. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
That was, 5?
This was probably about 4 years ago.
4? Yeah. So like that.
It's approved. They're sending out distributions on it today.
All right. I like to see that.
So, well, hey, let's just start with your background. Like, where'd you grow up? Where are you from?
So I'm from Louisiana originally.
Okay.
So
what part of Louisiana?
Monroe.
Monroe. Okay.
If you're from there, you say Monroe. If you're not from there, you say Monroe.
Oh.
And that's how you know. No, I'm kidding. I wish I had the cool Cajun accent, but I didn't get that.
Never
we're a little further north. Yeah. But moved here 2011.
Yeah.
And was a dental hygienist prior to being a real estate agent.
Yeah.
Two totally different fields. But I feel like almost one and the same. You're still people, right?
Yeah.
Handling emotions and things like that. So it kind of segued in.
What brought you to Dallas?
At the time, my husband was in medical sales and his job gave him the opportunity. And it was just something we felt like, okay, this is something that we can grow. And we love where we're from. We love the people, but it was just time for a change. And we took the opportunity and it's been incredible ever since. He's actually in real estate now. So yeah.
So Mark's from Monroe as well?
He is.
Okay.
We're both from Monroe.
Awesome.
We'll be married 25 years this month.
Nice.
So, I know.
That's awesome.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Time flies.
Me and Tammany just had 20. We just celebrated our 20th anniversary. So
congrats. That's amazing.
So that's awesome. So, okay. So you move here. You're a dental hygienist. Mm-hmm. Was it hard to transition to having to get people to shut up whenever you controlled their mouth for so long?
This is true. I could just stick something in it. Now I can't. No, I'm kidding. It's terrible. I just knew that there was something more. That was a great career for that time.
Yeah.
But I believe life gives you different opportunities and there's stages. And I just knew there was something more I wanted to do. I got to a point I was like, do I want to be in this 20 more years? Under someone working hourly, that's not what I want to do the rest of my life.
Yeah.
So I got my real estate license for the first 6 months. I did both. So I would leave on my lunch break, change out of my scrubs, go show a house, come back, go after work, show houses, get home late. And I had a goal. And about 6 months, I hit that goal. I wanted to make sure I truly was going to, love it before I just dove into it 100%. I guess full time. I was doing it 100%, but both. Yeah. At 6 months, I had met that goal and I was like, okay, this is for me. And just launched into it full time and never looked back. So awesome. It's been a really great ride so far.
So what year was this when you?
2015. So so we'll be 10 years this year that I've been in real estate. Yeah.
So you're who's the first broker you went to work for?
So I was with a small boutique brokerage in Plano. It was called VIVO. They're still around, VIVO Realty. Yeah. I would say probably one of the biggest things, and I tell everyone this that I come in contact with, is like find that person that can mentor you, really like help you and guide you in the beginning. Obviously, you've got to do the work.
Yeah.
They can't do the work for you, but if you have someone, and I had that person, and still to this day, I saw her last week at an event and I'm like, I always tell everybody about you. Yeah. I appreciate you so much because it just really helped me to get a good grasp on real estate, having that knowledge from someone that had been in it for a long time.
Right. No, It's very critical getting in. Like I see a lot of guys on the commercial side that, they end up kind of in, I call it wandering in the desert, right? In their career. And a lot of it stems from, they went to go work for a senior guy who's told them he would train them and then just like vaporized when they got there. And, hey, figure it out,
important.
And so, that was, I'd worked with my brother forever. So when I started, I was already kind of just into it, but I was already managing a bunch of buildings. So I'd had a lot of reps in that end of it. So, but then, always had that reference to go back to.
Yeah.
And that's huge,
It is.
I was interviewing a guy the other day who's at somewhere and he's like, he's 6 months into the business and he's,
Well, what do they say? 80% fall out their first year?
Oh yeah. No, it's you have to kind of, I think you got to be committed about 3 years for it to really, and now 6 months is when it kind of starts.
Yeah.
If you do all the things that you're supposed to do.
Things, on a
6
daily.
months, on a daily, consistently, I think 6 months is when you'll start seeing that happen. And then in 3 years, that's when people are calling you.
Yeah.
And
it's kind of like, okay, they bought a house, they may be selling a house, repeat business, if you're really doing it right.
Right. No.
And that's probably one of the biggest things I see right now being in a position of having my own brokerage, being a broker, mentoring people, and people come into it and, they're really ready. And I'm like, okay, let's see where they're at in 6 months as to if they're still doing the things. Because sometimes, people don't get that instant gratification of getting that closing in the first month, 2 months. Sometimes it takes 6 months.
Yeah.
And I mean, for me, I worked really hard and I didn't have my first closing until 5 months in. But when I had that, it was like boom, 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 boom. I had 4, 5, 6, right back to back. But it was because I consistently did those things. And I could always tell, like, if it starts tapering off 5, 6 months in, I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Like, you still gotta, it's a grind every day.
It never ends.
Yeah, it doesn't. I always say you have to be a little crazy to love it because it's such a roller coaster.
Oh, it is. It is. Man, it'll, I always say real estate's a drinking sport. Half the time I'm like, all right, I need something.
Yeah.
Like, this has been a day,
Literally, yeah.
But no, I think I think sometimes people get in the real estate business and they see a lot of the end result. And the things you're talking about are the consistent things every day. And I think a lot of people, it's hard for them to be consistent every day.
I think social media contributes a lot to that. We always show those highs but the real back end of things is a lot different, you know?
Yeah.
The reality of it. So
it is. Yeah. Yeah. Someone should dedicate a page to just deals blowing up.
Right.
What happened? Oh, this happened.
Yeah.
So, but I think that's something. I think sometimes people get into something like that and they think they want to do it, and then they're like, I don't think I want this. You know what I mean? And so it's you see it, and then they just kind of fade away.
Right. Yeah.
So okay. So you're at VIVO, and are you living in Prosper at the time too? At this point,
yeah,
okay.
We've been in Prosper basically since we moved here. So since 2000, we moved there in 2012. We were like right in McKinney first. We didn't know about Prosper. My kids went to Prosper school, so we moved over to Prosper when there was a service station in Dion's house.
Yeah, no, that's what So I got there. We bought our lot in 13. We built our house in 14. And so I was living in apartments in Frisco in 14, and then we moved in January of 15. And so like I'm still under. I think if you were there before the supermarket was there, you're like OG Prosper.
Yes, you are. I remember my husband would get so mad because you go to that one service station and they would charge you like $8, $9 for a case of water. And he was like, this is such a ripoff.
Yeah.
Okay, drive to Frisco.
Yeah. 15 minutes that way, sir.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I remember I would get up and I'd be leaving real early in the morning to go to the office, and there'd be deer just coming across Preston Road and all that stuff. So it's now we have, I don't know how many grocery stores, and we're on our 4th high school, know. So.
I know, and the HEB's coming. I'm very excited about that.
Yeah, that is a big, we're definitely getting an upgrade there.
Yeah.
So you're at VIVO. Then did you form Select from VIVO, or did you go
did.
anywhere else in between?
I did. No, I was at VIVO for 7 years and then branched out and launched my own small boutique brokerage and did that for 2.5 years.
Yeah.
And then last year, well, I guess it was like in September of 2023, I was approached by the agency out of California and looked at, what the brand is and the culture, the collaboration, everything that it was at the time was like aligned with who, I was as a company. And I just started looking and weighing this out. And it just made sense because I could have worked 10 years, 15 years, and my brand recognition would never get to where the agency is. So we're in 12 countries, over 130 locations now.
Yeah.
Netflix show.
Yeah.
So the brand awareness is huge. And then it's also we're a boutique luxury brand.
Yeah.
And so we're a lot different than a lot of the other bigger brokerages out there that, not to knock anyone, but it's just a unique brand and the brand awareness. I was like, okay, this is a no-brainer.
Yeah.
So we launched in April of last year, 2024, the Agency Frisco.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I do have to hand it to you. I thought your marketing on Select was very good.
Thank you.
Like I loved your logo. I love the way you spelled it, SLCT.
Yeah.
I thought that.
Although I was like the one thing I'm like, I really didn't think this through because people would be like, is this the SLC? I'm like, it's Select. I was like, it's crazy.
But I thought your branding was really good.
Thank you.
And so that was it
was a bittersweet thing, Sure. I'm the type of person, I'm always like, I can do change.
Yeah.
If it's something that I feel like if a door opens and it's progressing me to another level, I am all about taking opportunities,
Yeah.
I just think that it's something, if you don't, you may regret it later. I'm like, what's the worst thing that could happen? Be lateral?
Right.
I mean, it's just the way my brain works.
I've taken some shots on some different things too.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember one time me and my brother were talking and he goes, hey, have you ever lost on a real estate deal? I go, no. He goes, are we taking enough risk? I was like, okay, good point, And so now it was very, it's fun to like, in a way too, like when it works too, it's like, it's pretty exciting. Like, like I was telling you, we have a credit fund now. We're in our fund.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Like we do all retail.
Wow.
Like, we have 2 Chipotles, 3 Murphy's fuel stations, a Tom Thumb, like all these things. It's like,
you wouldn't have ever branched out and
never done it. And then, a lot of it started, we were just loaning money to people. And then one of our buddies at a family office was like, hey, we're out of allocation on this part of this side of our business. Y'all want to participate? And we're like, cool. So we started doing it with them. Then we're like, okay, we can do this. We can scale this.
And the door's open. Yeah. And you did it. I mean, that's awesome. Yeah, congrats on that.
It's fun. It's fun. It's cool. So I just remember like when I saw you announce that you're part of the agency now, I was like, wow, that's I was like, I thought you were rolling pretty hard. You were, obviously you were.
I mean, the thing is we were doing great. Yeah. But I'm like, okay, I'm just always like about leveling up. And I've had someone ask me before, when is enough enough?
Yeah.
And they're like, when are you happy? And I'm like, well, I can't really answer that.
Yeah.
I can't say ever.
Yeah.
Because I'm just the type of person that I always want to grow.
Yeah.
I always want to learn. Like if there's something that can take me to another level, I don't know. It's just, that's the way I work.
Yeah. I feel like at my point in life, there's like nothing I want to like buy or like for me, it's the game. Right.
Yeah. I enjoy it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Same.
It's like, so Will, who you met earlier, we'd had a couple meetings with people and we'd be sitting in the meeting and they go, how big do y'all want to get? I go, I'm good.
Yeah.
I go, how big does he want to get? And he's like, he grabs me one day. He goes, come here in my office. He's Italian guy.
Yeah.
I was like, what? He goes, you keep saying this, man. You're gonna like leave one day? I go, no. I go, just like
I'm happy.
I'm good.
Yeah.
You wanna go big time? Let's go big time.
Mm-hmm.
You wanna like cruise? I'm cool. You know what I mean? But like, and he and I we end up digging up so much stuff. It's like miserable half the time anyways. It's like, he and I get to the point where it's like, when you were a kid, you'd call your mom when you're at a friend's house.
Yep.
And you're like, hey, mom, I'm kind of done. Can you come pick me up? Sometimes that's what we feel like.
You're like, okay, this is enough. Yeah, don't get me wrong. There's days.
Yeah.
I feel the same.
Yeah.
I feel the same. Sometimes I'm like, what am I doing?
But you know what? I mean, it's cool that, now you have a national brand and,
and we are opening a second location this year.
Awesome.
In DFW.
Let's go. Can you say where yet?
Yeah. I mean, it's not, we just kind of got everything initially. So we're going to be launching the agency Rockwall.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a pretty growing area over there.
It is.
So.
We looked and just wanted to be strategic and we just feel like that's an area that's really untapped as far as from a luxury. And there's tons of developers going that direction, so much growth. So I think it's going to be a really great and huge opportunity.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So how did the agency get in touch with you? Like,
I don't know.
Yeah.
You know what's funny is I don't really watch TV, reality TV. And I was sitting there with someone that works in my office and they called me. And I get a lot of those calls, of people just dialing and recruiting. And when they said who they were, she was like, don't hang up. And I was like, okay. And so we had a conversation and I was like, okay, this sounds very interesting. And hung up the phone and she started telling me who they were. I was like, okay, that sounds really cool.
Yeah.
So did some research and that's when I started looking just at what that brand represents.
Yeah.
And the leadership from the top up. I mean, you've got Mauricio Mansky, who's one of the most successful, humans in real estate.
Yeah.
And he's done an incredible job of building this company for the past 12 years.
Yeah.
And I mean, we're launching everywhere right now. I mean, it's still just... We're in Turks and Caicos. We're in Cabo. We're in Spain. We're everywhere. So it's just really awesome. The collaboration too. I'm going next month to a forum and I'm going to be able to collaborate and we get a ton of referrals. We get a lot of, people that either are moving away that we can refer to or people moving. So that part has just been a huge game changer.
Yeah.
In the aspect of taking what we do to a much higher scale.
Yeah.
So,
I bet the inbound is pretty.
Yeah. I mean, the day after we launched the agency, we were getting calls just because we were the agency.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and then, golly, I got to think with the amount of people, the agency started in California, the amount of people they probably have moving out of California, coming to DFW.
Yeah.
It's probably got some pretty good inbound for you.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. Yeah.
That's cool.
And we service, our office is in Frisco, but we have agents. We're at 16 agents now.
Okay.
And they're all over the Metroplex. Yeah. All over Dallas, Fort Worth. So
are you brokering a lot more or are you kind of running the office more or, that
I have an incredible team.
Yeah.
I still do real estate.
Yeah.
I just think that if you're not in it, you lose it.
Yeah.
And how can you lead people if you're not doing it?
Yeah.
Obviously that shifts and changes some of your capacity and your time. And mentoring and leading and brokering and all the things. I'm like, this is my compliance hat. This is my real estate hat. But it's all about, I think, time management, structure, systems. And I'm just huge on that.
Yeah.
And able to keep it all going and organized.
Yeah.
So I still do. I mean, I have my clients that I've worked with for years and I'm never going to hand them off. And I love it. I don't want to get out of the game.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I love doing.
Well, the handoff's kind of tough.
Yeah.
It's tough to handle.
I just am so for my people, and I still take on new clients and but especially if you're my people, you're my people. And most of my clients are my friends now.
I'll still broker deals here and there. And I got this one client. I was like, hey man, this guy's working on it with me. I go, he's really good. He's going to send you a bunch of stuff. He's very detailed. He sends him everything. The guy put him on there. He goes, dude, this guy will not call me back. I finally called him. I was like, listen, I was like, can you please return his calls? He's like, I was like, okay, I get it. Fine. Shit it.
That's the hardest thing.
I told him, I was like, you just send me everything and I'll send it to him.
Yeah.
You can't send it to him with me copied on an email because it's not, psychologically, they just check out.
I know.
So,
and I feel like that's one of the biggest things, even, people, clients that have worked with other people in the past, is the communication.
yeah.
And to me, I mean, I tell my entire team, I'm like, you have good, bad, nothing.
Yeah.
Communicate.
Yeah.
Because that's the perception that people have of real estate agents, is that all we do is open doors and we never call you back.
Golly, if you just return your sign calls half the time,
you would have business.
You'd have so much business.
Even calling realtor, when I'm inquiring about a house and I've got a client interest, and I'm like, I can't get this person to call me back. Do you want to sell this house?
Yeah.
Does your seller know that you don't call people back?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It is.
That's not for everyone. The good ones, the ones that they call you back. But there's a lot. I mean, what do we have? 60,000 real estate agents in DFW.
Yeah.
And only really the 1%'s doing most of the work. And then you've got these others that are doing 1, 2, 3 deals a year. And it's maybe a part-time job. It's a aunt's house. It's a friend's. And I mean, you just lose that professionalism, and it doesn't help your seller or your buyer.
There's several commercial guys like that.
Mm-hmm.
And,
I'm sure.
And I'm not, I hold no punches with it. Like, I called a principal the other day. I go, hey, I know your building's for sale because your guy called on my client to try to sell it to him, which whatever, but I go, but your guy is the worst at return. I go, I don't think he's ever returned one of my phone calls ever or an email. And so anyways, I'm just calling you direct because you hired a nitwit,
And
he's just like, I hate hearing this. You know what I mean? He hates hearing that, right? Because he knows. I'm very
if someone would call you on your team, and from your team, it would be just like,
it's
not good for that person.
Yeah, no, it's very easy. To your point, communicate. It's weird. I don't know if I'm just getting older and saying kids these days, but like,
don't put us in that.
I know.
I don't like to think that.
But like, I've had numerous situations with guys where I'm like,
I'm not going to lie, commercial has a really bad reputation of not calling back.
I'm sure.
Worse than residential.
Well, and commercial gets they profile really, really hard.
They do.
They're like, if you don't have CBRE, if you don't have a name that they recognize,
they're not calling you back.
They're not calling you back. But like, I've had situations here lately where a lot of these brokers, I'm like, what'd they say? He goes, I don't know, let me ping him again. And I'm kind of like, dude, this is a $5 million deal. Why don't you just go to their office?
Right.
Like, go sit in front of them. And like most of the people that own these assets that we deal in, they're older.
Yeah.
They don't want to text.
Yeah, I know.
They probably have a flip phone, Literally.
They still make those.
They do. I just got a new phone and I thought about getting a flip phone because I don't have email on my phone.
Should bring that back.
Which people are like, you don't have email
The simplicity. Oh,
yeah.
really?
No.
Wow. Good for you.
People, it's funny. The bank emailed something to us the other day, and Will responded to him and said, hey, if you are emailing Jeremy, he's
out of the office for real.
It's like real mail to him. He'll
funny.
get to it, but it might be a week.
Good to know.
Yeah.
Good to know.
So, I check it every day, but like, it just piles up so much. I'm just like,
I think we've lost that communication factor. I mean, It's funny that you say that because I literally said, I taught a class a couple days ago and I said, stop texting unless that person tells you I only want to text.
Yeah.
Stop texting them because you need to learn. And I feel like it's a lost thing as we go from generation. Again, I sound old.
You're not.
But from generation, even my kids used to when they were, teenagers, and they would be upstairs like texting me something like that they did. I'm like, hey, come down here and talk to me. We're not doing this through text.
Yeah.
And it feels like an easy way out, and it's a lost communication.
Yeah.
It's crazy to me. I'm like, pick up the phone. Things can be taken the wrong way, and it's so much more effective when you actually give someone a call.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a lot. It's funny. We just bought a ranch, and my there was an easement issue, which we've known about. It's my brother's on the ranch for 20 years. He wanted to sell it. Me and my old roommate from college bought it. But we went to family to talk about the easement because the property's landlocked and all this stuff.
Yeah.
So, and my son, like, we've kind of gone through. My son is just a nut job for hunting, and he was like, I want to be a hunting guide. I was like, you don't want to be a hunting guy. Dude. I go, why don't you sell ranches? You'll know where all the hunting is.
True. And then you have the opportunity. Then you'll be invited.
You'll be invited, right? You'll have to go.
So win-win.
You'll have
You're
to go
making
hunt
money
them.
and invited.
You have to tell them, hey, I have to hunt your property to see if it's worth anything. Right. I mean, that's a legitimate thing.
It
you know?
is.
And so it's funny. We go sit down with one of the family members. I mean, this guy runs a tractor, the auction in Graham, Texas, right? And we walk in there, and I'm like, we have this whole meet. I made him go with me. I was like, hey, you need to watch this interaction because I go, this is the situation of Daddy said to never sell the farm. We don't give easements. Blah 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 blah. And so, anyways, we go in there. We walk out of there. I go. You see that guy right there? I go, yeah. Did you notice he's sitting in an office? It's 35 degrees outside right now. There's no heater on. He can barely use a computer. Yeah. He's got to dip a snuff in. Like, you have to go talk to those people.
Yeah. A text would not go over well.
No.
Yeah.
No.
You would have not gotten anywhere with that.
You've gone nowhere with that. So I was like, I go, this is how you,
so true, though.
this is how you make deals. You got to go sit in people's offices.
Take the time.
Figure it out.
I feel like we're in such a fast-paced world that everybody wants something done so quick. I don't have time to actually sit down and take the time to have a conversation with people and get to know them. And human interaction is key.
Yeah.
It is.
Well, I always say it's real estate and people are real and you have to get in front of them. Right. And that's where I think it's very effective. It's, when I am in front of my email, people start using email like instant messenger. And I'm like,
close.
Yeah. So no, but I think that's a key takeaway for a lot of people that want to get into real estate. I think you will beat everybody every time if you just go get in front of someone or pick up the phone and call them versus email them, text them.
I mean, there's a lot of things out there too of the quick dialing and and that's all great. I'm not knocking it. I'm all about technology and I'm all about. But still, and yet, there's some of the basic things that you will never, if you want to be successful, don't ever go away from that.
Yeah.
It's all about working efficiently, but at the end of the day, that human interaction is what it takes. You're
always going to beat the person that just texts or email by showing up.
Right.
You're always going to beat those people. I always call that must be present to win, right?
Yeah.
You have to,
so true.
If you're just sending those weak communications and we had a deal in San Antonio. I met with the building owners. They own the business forever. They want to, they're 75. They want to sell it. And the broker is like, yeah, I pinged them. I was like, dude, go to their house.
No.
They want to talk to somebody.
Do you think that they are going to give you one of their biggest assets?
It's their whole net worth.
Yeah. Okay. Put yourself in their shoes at 75 and So it's interesting.
That's a good thing to pick up though for young brokers. They you will totally win by just being in front of people
and being real too.
Yeah,
I mean sometimes I go when I bring agents in. So when I was Select Label, I was like I'm gonna bring all of these new agents in that are just starting. And these are going to be my babies, and I'm going to train them, and they are going to be these shining stars. And I had this whole and what I realized through that, yes, there are some really great new agents. I mean, I was just telling you about an 18-year-old, that came on in and wanted to dive into real estate. And I'm like, hey, this is 2 years of internship basically. But there's also, those that we talked about that maybe they don't want to really, they think they do, but they don't. And I learned that I can take all this time and pour into them, but if they don't do the work, and I would go sometimes into these appointments with them and everything was so robotic. Yeah. And I'm like, and then, it's trying to train them this is somebody that's a real human.
Yeah.
We need to actually have true connection and human interaction with them. Don't look at this as yes, it is a business deal, but at the same time, they've got to relate to you. And if you can't walk into somewhere and relate to someone, you're not going to get very far.
No.
Since the agency changed the model a little bit, realized that was a lot of time consuming. We're not set up for brand new agents to have that, you know, just 100%. So now I'm looking like for agents that, hey, you've been in the business a little bit, you've done well, but you're ready to like take it to another level.
Yeah.
And I can help you get there.
Yeah.
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 Lessons learned.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I mean, look, there's some that really do great and brokerages that bring new agents in and take that time and it's all your business model.
Yeah.
But for me, I wanted it more than they wanted it sometimes.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you know?
That's not good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've seen that too. I've gone on pitches with younger guys and we get there and I'm like,
were you prepared for this?
yeah. Did you even like,
do you know where we are?
Did you think about this? Like, was I supposed to do it? And then
right.
Like, you know,
yeah.
you know,
you're like cringing.
Yeah. I'm like, oh man. Okay. Maybe we just throw this away and I just talk to this guy and hopefully that works.
Yeah. Done that.
So, well, let me ask you, when did Mark start working with you?
So he got his license initially.
Mm-hmm.
It was 2021, maybe end of 2020, to basically help me because it was so busy.
Yeah.
And he was like, you know, listen, I can just help you like open doors and things like that. And then COVID happened.
Yeah.
And so I guess it was probably 2020. And it was just a time in the medical industry where things got really strange.
Yeah.
And if you weren't doing the things they required you to do, like all the vaccinations and all these things, or even trying to get into doctors' offices, it was just hard. Yeah. But then on the other hand, real estate really took off. It was really crazy.
Got white hot.
Yeah. And at that point, he was like, I'm going to do this full time. I enjoy it.
Yeah.
So
that's awesome.
That's when he launched in full time. So he did it part time for a little bit.
Yeah.
And so now it's funny because sometimes I don't want to hear myself talk at the end of the day because you talk to people all day.
Yeah.
Right? And I would come in and we'd sit down at dinner and he'd be like, are you okay? Is everything all right? I'm like, yeah, I'm just don't want to talk. Now it's funny since he's gotten into real estate, there's been a few times where we sit down at dinner and both of us are very quiet. And then we just laugh. I'm like, you get it now.
There's days when I drive home on the toll road.
Yeah.
The radio's not on.
No.
I don't even realize. I'm just sitting there in silence.
Mm-hmm. That's my piece. I'm like, I never listen to the radio. Yeah. I'm like, either I'm on the phone.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's, I mean, yes, it's a lot of you're giving of your time but it is so rewarding. Yeah. And I meet a lot of really incredible people. Oh, I mean, I get to work with a lot of, and you get to help people. And I always say, don't forget what we're doing at the end of the day. We're helping people. Yeah. We're in the people business. So you better be ready to give of your time and your energy and all those things because that's what we do. Yeah. You've signed up for this.
That's right. No, it's, I've always, on the commercial side that I've done, it was always cool because I was helping these people with their business, right? Their business was at an inflection point that was like, hey.
Which is huge. Yeah.
We're in 25,000 feet. We need to get to 75,000 feet or we got to go do something, And it's cool. It was always cool on that side for me watching how people make money because it's just some of the craziest things. You're like, how did you get into making money doing this? You know? And so it's that
hearing the stories and yeah, it's pretty cool.
It is, and but at the end of the day, you are helping people make and that's what I always try to tell younger agents. I'm like, listen, this person is entrusting you with. Right. Probably the largest transaction they're going to do. Mm-hmm. Like this is, someone's home's probably where majority of their net worth is at, right? And then on the commercial side, if they own that building or their business, if they're leasing and moving, that's where majority of their net worth is at. Right. So they have selected you to help them make one of the largest decisions in their life. You. Yes.
Yeah.
So
don't take it for granted.
Act accordingly. You know what I mean? Like it's serious. Like this is serious. And then I always remind them. And then remember what you're asking to be paid to do this.
Right.
It's a lot of money. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. So earn it. This is a serious thing.
Know your value.
Yep.
But then also live up to it.
Yeah. Deliver it.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
So that's that. I think that's another great point that, I mean, you're handling something big for them.
Yeah.
So, But you're right. You get to meet some really cool people too. So it's a lot of fun.
Most of my clients become my friends too.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just the way it is.
Yeah.
Because you get to know them, you get to know their kids, their history, their family.
Yeah.
You spend a lot of time with them.
It's a real estate transaction is a very intimate experience.
It is.
I mean, it's like
sometimes you get to know them more than what you really want.
It's very true.
And their emotions, I've had some of the most incredible clients be in an intense moment and call me and say not so nice things.
Yeah.
And I know I've done what I'm supposed to do. I get that you're right now in a very emotional, and I don't say things back. I take it sometimes, unless it's obviously to a point of, but they're upset about it. It's not, I don't take it personal, should I say. And then I get a call a little bit later. I'm sorry. Yeah. I didn't really, I'm like, it's okay. I understand that you're going through something that's very, sometimes it's financial situations where they need that money. They're at a place in life that they need to, sell because of financial stress.
Yeah.
Marital stress, whatever that is, death in the family. And to be a part of that, we've got to be able to navigate and deal with emotions. Mm-hmm. And sometimes just suck it up and don't talk back. Yeah. And let them vent a little bit. Yeah. And then obviously in a respectable way. But the majority of the time I know that person and I know they don't mean it. And they're going to call me back and be like, Heather, I didn't mean any of that. I'm really sorry. And I'm like, it's okay. I get it. Yeah.
No, it's a very emotional decision that people, are going through.
Well, even I feel like on the commercial side, it's different than residential in that way. But you guys deal with a lot of like...
Yeah, it's you and I were talking about this earlier. And I think this bleeds through to both sides. But like sometimes I think sometimes people get into a real estate deal and they think it's their time to shine. They're like, this is my time. There's something sexy about real estate to everyone, right?
And they want to win.
And they're like, this is my time. Mm-hmm. And it's like, but the goal is to get your business a building. Yeah.
Right. Like, do you really love this house or do you want to lose it over $5,000 on a 30-year loan?
Right. Like, is this where you see your family going?
Right.
Like, yeah.
Is it worth it?
Yeah. Let's do some math real quick. Right.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. And I think that's also what separates you from being a good, and what you do in your industry, commercial, residential, of like being able to navigate and talk through and help them to process that.
Yeah.
Versus somebody being like, okay, let's think this through. Like, I have somebody recently that, they're not living in the house. Obviously, if you're not living in it, it hasn't sold, you're losing money every month. And we get this offer, and then we get two offers, and one's like a contingent a few months out, and one's now. And I'm like, okay, let's weigh this out. What are you spending a month to wait 2 months for a little bit higher offer when really you're losing? And when I talked that logic through them, they were like, you're right. That makes total sense. Yeah. It's not just about seeing that number on paper, but like what makes sense for you.
Well, and I think when you do that for people, I think a lot of times people would, me as a broker and, we do math all day long.
Right.
Like in your mind, you're like, oh, this is you just do it this way. But they need to hear it. Yeah. They need to hear it from someone, because don't assume that they thought that.
Right. So true. And because these are business owners, these are CEOs of companies, but still they don't do this real estate thing day in and day out.
Well, back to it. They hired you to do this for them. So that's part of bringing that value. Mm-hmm. It's like, hey, here's the real financial analysis of this. Yeah, I know the purchase price that the sale price you're getting isn't as high, but here's the real economics, right? This is the winning part, right?
Your risk, your reward.
Yeah.
Like that's what I'm here to show you. And then ultimately you make the decision.
Right.
So
residential's, I don't know if this is interesting, the NAR ruling. Has that been challenging, or did everybody just kind of blow right past it and back to business as usual?
I think it's been challenging for some.
Yeah.
I was ahead of the game with our team, and we were doing training like 6-8 months before.
Yeah.
And I've always required these things like buyer rep agreements. That's something I've always required in our brokerage. But a lot of people weren't trained on it. They don't know how to navigate and have the conversation. And again, it comes to people not knowing how to talk and conversate. And so for us, like I really actually like it because it's full transparency. Mm-hmm. up front, if someone's not serious enough to commit and work with you, then you're not wasting your time either. Because unfortunately, there are those people. You like to think everyone is really committed and good.
You mean you've been ran around on a real estate transaction before?
Never. I know. We've all been that young agent. You're always, if you're hungry for the business. But I do feel like this has really been an adjustment in the fact of like those who are really, serious about working with you and committing. Mm-hmm. And it's all about how you approach it and how you say it and you translate it. And that's really what I've driven into our team and we have role play. We do role. They hate it. They hate it so much. But I'm like, guess what time it is, guys? Yeah. You guys all want to go to the bathroom right now during the meeting, but it's not happening. But it has helped them in being able to navigate that. Yeah. Because I think sometimes role play is harder than actually talking to an individual when people are sitting there watching you. So if you can do that,
awkward, right?
No one loves it.
No.
But I felt like it's been a good thing. I don't see a negative in it.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's been all this uproar about it and different things said to where some people don't really, they're just like, oh my gosh, I don't have to pay. I don't have to. That's always been negotiable.
Yeah.
It's always been negotiable. It's just more transparency.
Well, so when you go on listing presentations now, are sellers saying, hey, I don't want to pay the buyer's agent?
I have had a couple ask about it. And I'm like, okay, well, let's talk this scenario through.
Yeah.
And I just really lay it out there. Like, if you don't, they already have a buyer's rep agreement because that's required now with whatever percentage they've agreed upon. So somewhere, either the buyer's going to say, I'm going to move on to another house because I don't have the funds to pay my agent and you're not willing to, or they're going to roll it in somewhere, whether that's with the lender, whether that's in concessions, like somewhere along the way, it's going to have to be, so you could be doing yourself a disadvantage by doing that. Yeah. And so, they're probably going to come in on a lower price because they're having to come up with that fee at the end. So we just talk through that. And really at the end, like when I talk through it with them, I've never had anyone say, I don't want to pay.
Yeah.
But again, it's communication.
Well, and so now when you load it in the MLS, do you have to put in there, hey, there's no buyer's agent fee on this deal?
No, you can. Oh. You can't say that. So an agent, it's a little bit extra work, which agents hate, but you have to call and say, is the seller compensating? Is the brokerage compensating? Is there an agreement?
Yeah.
And that's where, from a seller's advantage, it is an advantage for them because if you send me some lowball offer, it's not written that I'm giving you that percentage no matter what, which it never has been, but that was the what people thought.
The basis of the,
Right. And so now, when someone calls me, I'm like, hey, with a solid offer, we are giving this.
Yeah.
But, we need to see the offer to tell you exactly what the seller's willing to give because it's their bottom line in their net too.
Yeah.
So that's been an advantage to, a seller. I've had one working with a buyer. I had one that I called and the seller was not giving compensation. And we went and viewed the house and I just was transparent with my buyer. And I said, listen, we have an agreement and they're not willing to compensate for, us coming and me bringing you to this house.
Yeah.
And so I just want to be transparent up front. We can try to roll it in different ways. And she said, you know what? I don't want to move on with this house. And so that's the feedback I left.
Yeah.
And like, hopefully, that seller sees it affected a buyer coming to his house for that reason.
Yeah.
So it's been interesting.
So on your buyer rep agreements now, is it kind of like stated that, hey, in the event the seller doesn't provide a fee, you're agreeing to pay X amount fee?
So in that paragraph, it reads like, first, we're going to seek compensation from the seller or the listing brokerage. And if they're not willing to, then, we're going to come back to you for that fee.
Yeah.
So it also makes agents have to learn how to negotiate on that part too. If you're not a good negotiator, you don't get paid.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I feel like that's why some people have struggled with it, just because it's a skill.
Well, I do like the fact that they're committing to dollars on the buyer rep agreement because, to your point, they're more committed. They thought about it. They thought about it a little more before they screw you on a transaction.
Correct. Yeah. And you're having to explain, what this means.
Yeah.
And, get that full transparency, which I do feel like I've had buyers that have called me and I'm like, well, have you been working with, have you signed anything? And they're like, I don't really know. Like I've signed something. I'm like, well, that's what you need to go back and check and see. I can't, work with you if you've already committed to someone. And a lot of times people don't even know what they're signing. And so I do feel like that's more transparency now of having to really walk through that. And if you don't have training for that and you have not learned how to do that, it's going to be tough.
Yeah.
It's going to be tough because people are going to ask you questions. And you better know how to answer them.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, they'll probably be reading the document now that they're, because
everybody's heard in the news and all these things. Yeah.
Well, they've always been under the assumption too that they don't ever have to pay a fee.
Correct. And it's always been that way. It's always been the same way. We always seek from the seller first and then, but now people are more aware and awareness brings questions.
Yeah.
So it's been interesting.
It is interesting.
But, they say, I think I saw statistics where I think like 60% of NAR is going to fall out this year. I mean, there's still agents that. So I tell my team, I'm like, you're still here.
Yeah.
You're past 2024.
Yeah.
Interest rates are going down slowly. Hopefully we see them go down more.
Yeah.
You're still here. So you're ahead of the game. But, there's still agents that it's hard. It's been a hard navigation for people.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, okay, you've got to kind of see some pretty dynamic markets over the last 6 years-ish, right? Like, it was going. COVID took a break for a couple months and then boom, like lit up. So like, from going from the white hot to now, what's it like now?
Before COVID, you experience that. And then it's funny. I met with the agent yesterday. I'm like, oh, you're a COVID baby, like realtor, like you created, because all these realtors, everybody wanted to be a realtor during COVID.
Yeah.
And then we've seen a lot of those are the very same people, unless you really, because it was so fast paced that you weren't building a business on the back end. You were working transaction to transaction. I'm not saying everybody.
No, that is a very good point though.
Yeah, but you're an entrepreneur, you're building your own business and you better have those systems and processes on the back end to sustain it.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's what I've seen a lot with those agents that came in at COVID and everything was like, you didn't have to go on for the business. It was like coming to you. Everybody is moving here and you didn't hardly even have to show houses.
Yeah.
How that's transitioned is now there's a lot more options.
Yeah.
There's a lot more time. People feel like they have homes are on the market longer. Days on market is the average days. And so it was a weird transition coming right out of COVID when interest rates started going up. And these sellers were still in the mindset of COVID and they wanted to ask more for their house. But a buyer looking at these interest rates was like pulling back.
Yeah. And
so we started seeing these homes, on the market longer and sellers were freaking out because their house didn't sell in a weekend. And it was like, that
where's
has
my 30
come and
offers?
Gone. Right. Right. So it's been unique and watching kind of this post-COVID process of everybody having to adjust from a buyer and a seller standpoint and agents.
Yeah.
Because we were so used to things going fast-paced, which I luckily was in it before and knew what it really took to still build a business. And I did that throughout. As to those that didn't, they've had to kind of regroup and relearn because they didn't have anything set up on the back end. So that's been an interesting take to watch. And now I feel like we're getting to a point that buyers are in that reality that we probably won't ever see 2.9 again in their life. Yeah. It is what it is. Sellers are like, hey, I think it's, again, communication and telling these sellers like up front, like, I mean, I say that we just had one that was almost a $2 million property and it went under contract in 4 hours over asking. It still happens.
Yeah.
It still happens. It was a beautiful home. Yeah. But in reality, like the majority, buyers have got a lot more option. They're taking a little more time, so be prepared for that.
Yeah.
And it's been an adjustment, but I think people's mindsets are getting there of where we are.
Yeah.
And more buyers are coming out. Sellers are being more realistic on their pricing.
So a lot of things you said parallel in the commercial a lot too. So
sure. Yeah.
A lot of these commercial brokers got in, COVID happened, and we're very focused on the industrial side. Yeah. Warehousing went kaboom. Amazon couldn't build buildings fast enough. And then investment sales went nuts too because capital was so cheap. Right. And development in commercial real estate is never built to demand. It's built to the cost of capital. And so when money's 3%, it's gangbusters.
Right.
So a lot of brokers got in. They're just selling buildings. And there was a point, it's always been the rule that a user of space, someone for their business or something like that, will always pay more than an investor will, right? Because they can move right into the building. They don't have downtime. They don't have that risk. That flipped after COVID. Investors were paying way more than a user would, and they were driving rates up on leases. But a lot of brokers, I mean, you just kind of had to like put the property on CoStar, and guess what? You had a proposal at full price, you know? And so none of them really learned how to work a real transaction that has challenges.
It's actually work.
It is work, right? And now a lot of them are not making money because they're like, what do I do? I don't have any tenant rep business. I don't have any this other stuff. I just sold investment deals to people forever, and now capital. Now interest rates have screwed up pricing so bad, right? Yep. And so very similar to on residential, commercial. All these mom and pops that owned a nice building and all this had gotten all these offers all day long, unsolicited offers on their building. Hey, we'll pay you $150 a foot, $200 a foot. Well, when interest rates moved, that's not worth that anymore.
Right.
And
you're not going to get it.
But you know what they think their property's worth? It's still $150, $200 a foot. So that's been a real challenge for us. Like in 22, we bought, like in 23 and 24, we bought half of what we bought in 22.
Wow.
And, it's just
How
challenging.
do you see 2025, like so far?
I see very similar to what you're saying. People are starting to come to reality on pricing on their properties.
Right.
Because the big thing is, the one thing we're fighting is if people don't truly understand what affects interest rates. Because right now you hear a lot of news about the Fed lowering rates. But the 10-year and the 5-year are just pegged right now. And that's, everybody's tying to that. And then, a lot of mortgages are tied to the 10-year and 5-year. And then a lot of agency debt that goes on longer term deals is all tied to a spread over whatever treasury you pick. And those, you're talking a 200 to 250 point spread over that treasury. The 10 years at 4.5 right now. So, I mean, you're paying, 7.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
Well, when it's 7,
it's better than 9.
It's better than 9. And I'll tell you this, those 2 years that we bought half of what we bought in 2022, out of 10 deals, we got 7 of them owner financed. Like we just, hey, look, I can pay you this. And because I felt like the properties we would always underwrite to bank debt. Yeah. But then we would go in with the owner finance option. And we were very successful at getting it. And we got, when debt was 8 and 8, we were getting 5, 7, 5, 6. We'd get interest only for 2 years. Yeah. We got one deal, no payments for a year.
Those were your times that you could be creative.
Yeah. And we would.
But you have to know how to navigate that.
Yeah. And so we would do deals too. It'd be like, guy owns a business, needs to wind it down. This guy's never paid anybody rent. Yeah. And we buy his building and he's wind his business down. He don't want to pay us rent. Yeah. But I get him to owner finance it to me. I'd say, hey, owner finance it to me. You can take a year to move out. Don't charge and don't charge me any mortgage payments. I won't charge you any rent. And they love that. Yeah. Because when I told them what the rental rate is for giving them the number that they wanted for their building, they're like, I ain't paying you that. Yeah. Well, it's math, sir. Like, this is all math.
So true.
But I do see, like, we just got a really large deal agreed to, and man, I really thought they were. And the way this transaction started off with one building is turned to 3 now, and but the first building I thought we had agreed to a deal. Then they're like, oh, we've got other, it's worth more. I just said, you know what? They can have it.
Yeah. It's when you got to make the smart decision. It's not worth getting caught up in the game.
Oh, no. And I knew it. And the broker representing us on it was trying to push me into it. And I told him, I said, you are getting brokered right now. I'm not going to be a part of this, but you're getting brokered right now. Yeah. Listen to me. I'm telling you right now, you're getting brokered. And sure enough, I call him about 40 days later. I go, so where are there other offers at? He goes, they all vaporized. I was like, He goes, I was going to call you today because I think it's coming back to us. And then they had 2 other like
Worth the wait. Yeah.
So now it's turned and it's wild because the transaction's probably gotten about 8 times larger now. So it's turned out really well, but like the seller needed to go through that
to understand,
to ground them a little bit and be like, this guy was actually pretty reasonable with what he offered.
Right.
And so I think that's
sometimes
happening.
It takes time for people to.
Well, you've probably had clients, lose a deal.
Oh yeah.
They make the next one, don't they?
They do.
They don't
and
screw
I
the
have
next
sellers that, they want to come in at, and I can show you the numbers all day long, but in their mind.
Yeah.
And sometimes I have to be a little patient and navigating that.
Yeah.
And let that time go where they see, okay, I'm not going to get this for my house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
a waiting game sometimes.
It is. It is, but that's why you got to have a business built. That's why, to your point, like people that were just doing transactions now, they need to know how to navigate those conversations and just.
Yeah, I always say I want obviously to help you make the most money, but I'm not just going to tell you what you want to hear.
Yeah.
It
doesn't work.
I've learned at the end of the day, it doesn't benefit me or them because they're upset and then we haven't sold the house still.
Well, and then what happens is the next real estate agent will make the deal.
Yeah, because they'll come in and do it lower. Yeah.
They're going to fire you, and then they're gonna listen to what you probably told them halfway through the listing. Hey, we need to lower to this. No.
Yeah.
Then they're going to lower it to that with the next person.
I know.
And you're like, but that's what I said.
We've all been there, I mean, you can only do so much. But.
Yeah. So, well, tell me about the Frisco area up here. I know you're pretty embedded in it. Like, I feel like it's still pretty jiving up here.
Oh, man. Well, we sold our house. We built a house in Salina almost 2 years ago. May will be 2 years. And everything is just moving so far, just north.
Yeah.
And I think the one thing that we've had going for us and living where we live in DFW is even through all of this craziness with the economy, things are still moving and going, maybe on a little bit slower pace than it was during COVID, but things are still moving.
Yeah.
And things are still coming, corporations and businesses. And so you've got the fields that's developing. You've got all of that development along 380 and the toll. And then the tollway extending. I mean, you've got that huge golf course community coming out in Salina that's going to be the largest community in Texas is what they're saying. It's got a private golf course on it. Yeah. I think it's like 7,000 homes or something like that. So it's pretty crazy to watch. And I'm part of the Salina Chamber because I know the growth that's coming there. So from Frisco to Prosper to Salina, it's all just continuously. I mean, it's hard sometimes to keep up with all the development because you try to read and stay on top of it and go to the chamber meetings, but it's just so much popping up, which is great for us being in the real estate industry because, we're still able to thrive and do businesses to where there are some other states and parts that just don't have what we have, economically.
Yeah. So. No, I love the economic growth. I hate the traffic.
I know.
We leased this building year and a half ago. It was a 25-minute drive. It's now a 40 to 50-minute drive for me. I'm like...
Yeah, remember when it was like you could get anywhere in DFW in 30 minutes and now it's like 50.
It's 45.
Yeah, 45, 50.
Yeah.
I mean, it is. And what I heard a statistic about, I think DFW is supposed to be the largest population of the states, and I think it's 2036.
Oh, we're going to be LA. We're going to be Southern California.
Yeah. I mean, totally so hope you are prepared for an hour. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah. No, it is.
Yeah.
It is insane. It's wild.
It's like a bittersweet thing. I do hate the traffic and everything, but I do love having some of the things a little more convenient where I am.
Oh, yeah.
Like used to, we would drive into Dallas to go to, eat and go out to. Now I'm like, I don't really go past Legacy West because everything's here. I don't need to.
And once they build fields out, you're probably going past El Dorado.
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be a lot of restaurants. I'm sure you've seen everything that's coming there. It's going to be incredible.
I watched the video for I guess the Fields version of Legacy West. Mm-hmm. It's like crazy, 5 times larger.
I know.
Like I was watching the video and it's like a drone flying down the street. I was like, when does it get to the end?
Right. That's what I tell people when they're like, I'm waiting. I'm like, listen, if you were going to buy in this area, the average price point now for Prosper is like $850,000.
Oh my gosh.
That's average. So, I mean, because you've lived there that long. I remember you can't even hardly find a house under $500,000 there. And that's a small, you've got villas and things in the fours. It's crazy. So I'm like, don't wait. Don't wait.
Yeah.
Like, it's not worth that 1-2% interest rate to wait, and miss out because things are just rapidly increasing and growing. We're in an area that's thriving.
Yeah.
So people sometimes think because you're a real estate agent, you're just saying that. And I'm like, I promise. And those people 3 years ago, I had this one guy, he was like, I'm just going to wait. And I was like, okay. I was like, I'm here for it when you are. And I think we talked for 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
We got to the closing table and he was like, Heather, I hate to say this and admit it, but I should have bought 3 years ago.
Yeah.
I just overpaid for this house, what I could have got for it 3 years ago. And I'm like, it's true. I mean, it's not just a real estate agent talking about it. I mean, look at what's happening. Look at the history. You can go look up the numbers. So.
Yeah. I call my house in Prosper the best real estate deal I never meant to make.
Literally. Everybody wants in your neighborhood.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have people like, can I live there?
Yeah.
I'm like, well, no one wants to move out of there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what we did. We got an acre in Salina because we know what's coming.
Sure.
So it's like we're out like you were in 2011, a little out there. But I'll drive 15 more minutes because the equity I'm going to gain because of everything that's migrating out that direction.
Yeah, we were living in Valley Ranch in Irving when we decided we needed to move. And we looked all over the place. And Tammany was like, hey, let's move to Frisco because Jill and all of them are moving. And she's like, we'll move in this Newman Village neighborhood. I go, 1 acre minimum.
And
I was like, you can't find that. You know what I mean?
She found it.
Because my territory was Regal Row and 35. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm like, I am on the street on Regal Row and 35, like all day long. Like, this is
like, I got to travel that far. And, and you felt like you were in the middle of nowhere at that time.
Oh, yeah. Well, then she calls me one day and goes, would you consider moving to Prosper? I go, I don't even know where Prosper is.
Right. It sounds cool.
Yeah. She goes, it's 10 minutes north of Frisco. I go, okay. She goes, and I found a house on 5 acres. And I was like, yeah, I'll go look at that. If I'm going to drive,
it's worth it.
Yeah. And so it was in that neighborhood that's right next door on the other side of the equestrian center of mine. That's like, it'd like be a cool neighborhood if they had an HOA.
Yeah. I know what you're talking about.
And so I looked at that house and all the other houses around it. It looked very West Texas to me, like a couple broken down cars and stuff. And, but then we drove around and I found that lot and I just walked back to the lake and I was like, I can get
all of this
and all of that I don't have to maintain.
Crazy.
And I was like,
no brainer.
Pretty cool. Let's try it. So,
and you definitely can't get that anymore.
Oh, no.
I mean,
they don't even build that anymore out there. It's not a.
That's what I tell everybody. I'm like, if you want land now and you don't want to pay, I mean, you really can't find just land in Prosper, but for a house, you need to go 10, 15 minutes further north right now.
Yeah.
And eventually it'll be Gunner.
Yeah.
Yep. Everybody used to tell us, you guys live in Oklahoma.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, we keep getting closer to it.
So there's a broker I worked with, a really successful broker. And when I bought my lot in Prosper, he came into my office and he goes, you're going to mess your production up. You're too far away. And I was like, well, I'm doing it. It is funny. He left our company and went to another firm who's in downtown and you have to get on 2 elevators to get to their floor. And I go, so you might have about the same drive that I do now.
Yeah. You're like, you're going to mess your production up.
But I mean, he was serious. He like walked in my office. He goes, if you do this, you're going to screw your production up. And I was like, man, I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
So,
it's just a part of life.
Yeah.
It's funny. My family comes here and they're all in a smaller town and they're like, you guys have to drive everywhere. But we're just, you get used to it. I mean, it's really not that bad when you hear people coming from California and the time that they spend in the car.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's
like,
unbelievable.
It's not
bad. We go to Lubbock a lot and my buddies out there, it's funny. We went to a football game and a buddy of mine that is out there, Tammany texted him and goes, hey, where should we go to dinner tonight? He goes, well, where are you staying at? I don't want to send you too far. I'm like, dude, it's Lubbock. Like,
it can't be that far.
Like, it's 10 or 15 minutes in one direction.
Yeah.
But that's how they think, right? Because that's what they're used to. They're like, oh, man, I got to drive 10 minutes?
Right.
Like,
And we're like, 10 minutes, that's easy.
I just got to like the second stoplight.
I know. I'm like, Preston Road is, it's fun. It's a good time.
So, well, maybe you already said on this, but what are you working on this year that you're most excited about?
Yeah, I think the launch of the new office. So that's going to be super exciting. Just gearing that up. We're also growing the team strategically. I always say it's not quality. It's not quantity, it's quality. Yeah. I want to find the right fit to keep the culture we have. And other than that, I feel like, so it's funny because my kids, now we're empty nesters.
Yeah.
So my daughter's at OU. And when she went to college, I went into the office and I said, I'm so sorry, but I'm all yours. Like, I know you guys are going to really get sick of me now.
Oh, yeah.
I love work. I love what I do. And so I feel like this year, that is my goal, to grow strategically in the Frisco office. Not too fast, but with the right people that's going to help, grow the team as it should. And then also work on getting, our goal is by summer, if not sooner, but we, by the end of the year for sure, we'll launch the Rockwall office. So
that's cool.
Yeah. So
that's awesome.
It's a lot going on.
It is.
Yeah.
It is a lot.
I don't sleep a lot. So
well, you're an empty nester. You can just work all the time.
I know.
That's what
I know.
So my brother's like that now too. It's like, he was gone like forever. Like they lived in Florida for a while and all this stuff. And then his kids are going to school out there. And then, now they're in college and he's just like, works all the time.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's probably gonna be, I was telling Will, I was like, I could go, man, my kids are in that, twilight time of like, this is, I'm on that stretch. I go, I'll tell you what, man, about 5 years, I'm going to be ready to go hard in the paint because I'm not going to have anything else to do.
I know. Well, you do. It was such I did go through like a whole mental, because you're so used to, giving all of it. It basically revolves. You like to think you're the boss, but what I realized is that I was not. Yeah. They were telling me what to do.
Yeah.
And then you go from like, prepare, okay, we got to get dinner for the family. And then it's a complete shift.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, I don't have anyone that actually just needs me. Like, it's weird.
Yeah.
And you go through this whole shift and then she comes home now and we're like, oh shoot, we forgot to ask her what she wants for dinner. We're like, we forgot we have a kid at home now. Yeah. So it's funny how it shifts and changes, but it's a good season. Like, I love it. Yeah. It's a whole different, like, your kids grow up and it's a bittersweet, but it's also a good season in life. They're, grown-ups.
Yeah.
Consider grown-ups.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's just a different time, but I love it.
Yeah. No, I see myself totally hammering down whenever it's like, I'm like, all right, more real estate deals.
Yeah. I'm like, what am I going to do? I'm going to work. So,
well, I always like to ask this question.
Okay.
What is something about you that most people don't know?
I don't know if most people don't know this. I do sing.
Okay.
Yeah, I've been singing since I was like 5.
Okay.
I tried out for American Idol. I went through
you did?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Yeah. That's cool.
I do sing at my church still now, but I have a background of just musical family, talented family. And so I guess that's one thing I don't really like put it out there a lot, but I do sing.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I enjoy it. It's fun.
I sing a lot too. So.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. We need to get together, do a whole band thing, bring it back. I'm an empty nester and I got plenty of time.
Yeah, that's what, it's like, Megan Lucky. Like, I play with her. Me and her play together.
Nice.
I mean,
I didn't realize that.
We start practicing and then it's like,
yeah, you're like,
life gets in the way and stuff.
I know.
So, but yeah, no, it's that's fun. Cool. It's fun to have music as an outlet. Like,
it is,
it's,
which is funny because you say you don't listen to music in the car. Neither do I. Like, I love music, but it's funny because people ask me if I've heard this song and I'm like, I don't really listen to the radio.
No. So we end up playing a lot of, I guess like country music type stuff. And I don't listen to country music.
Really?
Everybody assumes I do. But like,
because Megan's country, right?
Yeah,
she sings country. Yeah.
She does. I just end up playing it because that's what people will listen to. Like, if you wanted to listen to what was on my playlist, like,
I pretty much listen to anything. Yeah,
you wouldn't listen to Meshuggah, and that's what I listen to a lot of. but like, it's funny. I'll just be like, well, like we've had rehearsals this week because we have a couple shows coming up and stuff, and I was just like, I was like, I've never heard this song. Can you play it for 2 seconds? Okay, cool. Got it. I'm like, it's like 4 chords.
You still got it. It's still in you. Yeah.
So it's country music's pretty easy to me. So it's fun. It's like, okay, that's a cool song, you know.
I've been back in my country era right now. Like I kind of swing. I'll listen to different genres at different times. And right now I'm going full, but I like old school country.
Yeah.
I love Chris Stapleton, but like Travis Tritt, like some of the older school. And my daughter, she sings as well, and she loves like old music. I mean, she's like an old soul, and I love that about her. So I try to introduce her to all of this old, you know. Actually, she probably introduces me sometimes.
Well, you know, so my kids are in the, you know, like my son, like it's fun. I played like a private party in Prosper one time. Really? And at the end of it, my son got up and we played 5 songs together, and he sang them all. You know?
He sings.
Yeah,
That's
he'll sing them. But like his musical choices are all mine.
Really?
Because they don't really have any new artists.
I know.
You know what I mean?
My husband says that all the time. He's like, think about in the 90s, you can go from any genre and you've got incredible artists. Mm-hmm. Not to knock anybody now, and maybe that's why I'm old, but it's different.
You're not old.
Different.
We're not old.
It's different. It's different. You know, I don't feel like it's a whole, just the level of.
Well, just from the rock and roll perspective, back in 91, you know, within 6 months, Guns N' Roses released Use Your Illusion 1 and 2. Metallica released the Black Album. Soundgarden released Bad Motorfinger. Pearl Jam released 10. Red Hot Chili Peppers released Blood Sugar Sex Magic. I mean, like you're talking
all
about
in a matter of
6 months,
which are iconic. Yeah,
forever. You're talking about bands that are still touring. You know, and
it's crazy.
But I think most of the music now it's rap and hip hop, which you know there's some good stuff coming out of it. But there's no rock bands anymore.
No. I know.
They're all
interesting, right?
Yeah, I mean it's
either country or
it's either country or hip hop, and so. But you know, my son, you know, it was great. You know, we all went to the Creed concert.
Okay,
it was fun. And so me and him went when they came through in October, and I'd never seen them before, and I was like, I want to go see them, and it was phenomenal.
Really?
And then they came back and they played at Choctaw.
Yeah,
and there's a band called Seven Dust that opened up for him. And I used to listen to Seven Dust just religiously.
Yeah.
Like, and they used to come to Lubbock and play these bars all the time. So I'd seen them in Lubbock all the time. And
you're like,
I was like, I told my son, I was like, you're going to love this. Like, you're going to love these guys. Yeah. They're awesome.
Did he?
And like I saw him going to school the other day. He had a Seven Dust shirt on. And I was like, this is cool.
You're like, that's my child.
He was like, man.
Taught him well.
Yeah. And so it was the, you know, my daughter, fun. She's always wearing like a Pantera sweatshirt and stuff like that.
You're like, yes.
Yeah. I was like,
I am winning in life.
Winning. So, it's fun. I'm taking my kids to the Deftones concert in a month. And so, you know, they're that was like their Christmas present. They're like so pumped to go to the Deftones concert. And I'm like, golly, that's like, I was been listening to the Deftones for 25 years, you know?
Wow.
So yeah, no,
I
music,
love that.
I love music. It's a big part of our life. So that's cool.
Yeah.
So, thank you for doing this. That was really fun.
Thank you.
That was really interesting.
I know.
You know,
we covered a lot of ground.
We did. That's, you know, it's pretty easy when you want to just talk real estate with real estate people.
I know. I'm like, you can tell me to shut up now sometimes. I'm obviously, now you know why I am quite a dinner because I talk all day. I have the gift of gab.
Yeah, there you go. So, but no, this was great, man. You know, if anybody wants to reach out to you, if they need a home up in, you know, in the Dallas-Fort Worth area,
absolutely.
How do they get a hold of you?
Instagram, any type Facebook, social media. Also, you can, you know, call me directly. I'm always answering my phone. I believe you're not a good real estate agent if you're not answering your phone. That's email, call my office. So I'm pretty easy to get in touch with.
There you go.
Yeah.
We'll put your links in the show notes. So.
Absolutely. Love it.
All right. Heather Stevens, everybody. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you so much.